I wasn't even planning to talk about this one, but the moment I read it, I knew I had to share it. Because this is not a story about a man who snapped or exploded or made a scene. This is a story about a man who went completely quiet, planned every move without saying a single word, and gave his wife exactly what she asked for. Before we get into it, please share, and subscribe for more stories like this. These are the stories that stay with you. Now let's get into it. Nolan Whitaker was the kind of man who fixed things before they fell apart. Not just in his work as a commercial plumber, hospitals, school buildings, government contracts, but in his marriage too. If Brielle's car was due for an oil change, he had already scheduled it. If a hinge on the kitchen cabinet started sticking, it was quiet again before she noticed. That was his pattern. Handle it before it becomes a problem. What he never figured out was how to apply that approach to a wife who had already decided he was the problem. They lived in a renovated shotgun-style house near Germantown in Louisville, Kentucky. Tall, narrow windows. Hardwood floors that creaked along the left wall no matter how carefully anyone stepped. Brielle had picked the house, which made sense because Brielle picked most things. She was an operations manager at a luxury furniture showroom downtown, and she moved through the world with the kind of confidence that came from knowing her taste was usually right. Nolan respected that about her. Even when it left him feeling like a guest in rooms she had curated without him. Their marriage had not always felt that way. There were years when it worked the way he thought it was supposed to. Saturday errands, followed by whatever she wanted for lunch. Her cold feet pressed against his legs at night, while he pretended to be annoyed. Brielle laughed until she had to sit down. Those were the years before the showroom made her ambitious in a direction that did not include him. Before Darius Bell entered the picture. Before Nolan came home early one afternoon and heard his wife describe him like something in her way. The first sign that something had shifted was not an argument. It was a comment at a dinner party for her co-workers, held at a restaurant in Nulu with good lighting, and wine Nolan did not recognize. He was in the middle of a story about a school repair job, and Brielle interrupted him without looking up from her glass. Nolan, not everyone wants pipe details with their salad. The table laughed politely. She did not glance over at him afterward. That silence, the deliberate withholding of it, was a thing that stayed with him on the drive home. He told himself she was stressed. That was the first mistake. Stress had become his explanation for everything that felt wrong, because the alternative explanation required him to ask a question he was not ready to ask. So he filed it away and went on. He serviced her car. He packed her lunch on long inventory days. He kept the porch light on, and he watched, without acknowledging what he was watching, as Brielle gradually changed the way she occupied the same house he did. She started staying late at the showroom 3 nights a week. Regional director meetings, she said. Vendor scheduling. Nothing that could be confirmed or disputed from the outside. Her phone password changed sometime in March, and she acted offended when Nolan noticed. She bought new dresses and called them professional. She started using whitening strips. She asked twice where her black leather tote had gone, and both times it was exactly where she had left it. None of those things, on their own, proved anything. Together they made the house feel different, like the air pressure had shifted slightly. Nolan noticed the way her phone went face down during dinner, the way it followed her to the bathroom, the way she smiled before typing, and wiped the smile off if she caught him watching. Once, he walked into the kitchen while she was mid-text, and she locked the screen so fast she dropped the phone into the sink. She said he had startled her. He apologized. He had only entered his own kitchen. The name Darius Bell appeared in her conversation, the way certain names do when someone is trying to make them sound unremarkable. Darius from Vendor Relations said the sofa line is delayed. Darius thinks the Cincinnati showroom is mismanaged. She said it with careful casualness, which is not the same thing as actual casualness. Nolan asked once who he was. She said someone from corporate. Then she stirred her coffee without drinking it, which was what Brielle did when she was done with a subject and expected it to die. The first time Nolan saw them together was at a charity design event at the Seelbach Hotel. Brielle had invited him, then spent most of the evening across the ballroom with Darius. The man was tall, relaxed, the kind of polish that looks effortless because someone has been practicing for years. He touched people's shoulders when he talked to them. With Brielle, he stood closer than the conversation required. She did not move back. Nolan stood near a silent auction table holding a glass of water and kept his face completely still. When she came back to him near the end of the night, she smelled faintly a cologne that was not his. Not strong. Just enough. You disappeared, he said. She scanned the room before answering. Nolan, please do not start. I am not starting anything. Then stop making that face. That face was apparently the one he wore when his wife stood 15 feet away laughing with another man like he was not in the building. He swallowed everything he wanted to say because they were in public, and because he still believed that good husbands did not embarrass their wives. The disrespect sharpened after that night. Brielle stopped asking how his day went. When he talked anyway, she checked the time. She complained about his work boots by the back door, his lunch cooler on the counter, the way he chewed ice, the way he breathed when he read. One evening, while he was tightening a loose hinge on the pantry door, she stood behind him and said, "Do you ever get tired of fixing small things?" He asked what she meant. She smiled without warmth and said to forget it. He did not forget it. The evidence arrived slowly, the way it does when someone is trying not to look for it. A receipt from an Italian restaurant in Nulu, 2 glasses of wine, and a seafood entree Brielle never ordered when they were together. A hotel parking validation from downtown, folded into the bottom of her tote. A calendar entry marked vendor walkthrough on a Saturday when the showroom was closed. He wanted an explanation for each thing. He never asked for one. That was his flaw. He stayed quiet until staying quiet became its own kind of answer. Their neighbor, Mrs. Calhoun, a retired school secretary who watered her front plants every morning at 7, stopped Nolan one Tuesday while he was rolling trash bins back up the drive. "Is everything all right with your wife's work schedule?" she asked. He said he thought so. She looked uncomfortable. "A gentleman dropped her off last week. Black sedan. I assumed maybe her car was getting worked on." Nolan thanked her and kept his face even. Brielle's car had not been in for service. It had been sitting in the garage that same evening when she told him she had driven herself home. The sentence that ended his patience came on a Thursday. He had left the job site early because a school inspection was pushed to Monday. His hands still had grease along the knuckles from a copper fitting replacement. He came in through the side door quietly, not to sneak, just because he was tired and the door was closer. Brielle was in the living room on a call, and her voice was different, soft, laughing low, the kind of voice he had not heard her use with him in 2 years. "He is home all the time lately," she said. "I swear his presence irritates me." Nolan stopped in the hallway. He was still holding the takeout bag. "Darius, I mean it. I want him to disappear forever. I want one day without his questions, his boots, his sad little face watching me like I owe him something." There was a pause. Darius said something through the speaker, too low to catch. Then Brielle laughed again. That laugh did more damage than words. She had been saving it for someone else. He backed out the side door before she saw him. He sat in his truck 2 blocks away, behind a closed tire shop, and stared at the steering wheel. The takeout bag sat on the passenger seat. The rice inside went cold. He did not cry right then. That came later. In that moment, something inside him went quiet in a way that felt less like grief and more like a decision being made. He drove around for 40 minutes. When he came back, he opened the front door loudly and called out that he was home. She appeared in the hallway with her phone, already locked. "You are late," she said. He held up the bag. She said she had already eaten. He put the food on the counter, said no problem, and went upstairs. She studied him from the bottom of the stairs, waiting for something she could work with. He gave her nothing. Brielle had always preferred emotional reactions she could redirect. His silence unsettled her in a way she could not name. He knew that. He used it. That night, lying beside her while she slept with her phone under her pillow, he went back through years of memory and tried to find the moment the marriage had turned. The chapel in Lexington, her cream dress, the way she cried before the vows even started, burned pancakes in their first apartment, her laughing until she sat down on the kitchen floor. The memories did not comfort him. They made the present uglier. The woman beside him was not a stranger. She was familiar and unreachable, which is its own specific kind of loss. He did not confront her. He collected the truth, not for leverage, but because Brielle could turn a direct accusation into a trial if he came unprepared. And he had been unprepared for too long. He pulled shared credit card statements and found restaurant charges, ride-share pickups near the showroom, and charges at a boutique hotel bar near Whiskey Row. He checked the mileage on her car after she said she spent a Saturday at her sister's house in Frankfurt. The numbers did not match. He took photos of everything and saved them somewhere she would not find. On Sunday, Brielle announced a regional planning retreat in Cincinnati. 2 nights, hotel covered by corporate. She packed red lingerie she had not worn for Nolan in over a year, folding beneath a gray blazer like he would not recognize it. He stood in the doorway and watched her zip the suitcase. "Seems like a lot for a planning retreat," he said. She did not blink. "That is because you do not understand my industry." She said it the way people say things they have been storing for a while. "Clean. Practice." She said Darius and another manager were picking her up, that it was easier. Hearing his name used so simply, like it was already a permanent arrangement, confirmed something Nolan had been refusing to confirm for weeks. She kept moving around the room, pulling things from the dresser, without looking at him. Before she left, she gave him a dry kiss on the cheek and said, "Try not to call me every hour." He said he would not. She smiled as if that settled it. He followed at a distance. He was not proud of it, but he followed because he needed to see what he already knew. They did not go to Cincinnati. Darius picked her up near the showroom in a black sedan, and they drove across the river to a boutique hotel in Jeffersonville, Indiana. Close enough to feel clever, far enough to feel hidden. Nolan parked near a pharmacy across the street and watched his wife step out of another man's car. Darius took her suitcase. She touched his arm. They went in through a side entrance like people who had done this before. He did not go inside. He sat in the parking lot until his hands stopped shaking, then drove home. That was the night he understood what he was going to do. He was not going to save the marriage. He was not going to beg or confront or cry in a hallway. By midnight, he had opened a new bank account, scheduled a consultation with a mediator, and sent an email to an old friend in Indianapolis named Leland about a maintenance supervisor position Leland had mentioned months ago at a time when Nolan had no reason to want it. When Brielle came back Monday evening, she brought him a souvenir mug from Cincinnati. That almost broke something in him, not because he believed a lie, but because of how easily she carried it. She set the mug beside the sink and said, "Thought of you?" He picked it up and turned it in his hands. The city skyline was printed along the side. "That was kind," he said. Her eyes narrowed. She could hear something in his voice but could not locate it. "Are you being sarcastic?" He said no, just surprised she had thought of him. She started before he asked a single question. "You have been strange lately," she said. "Quiet, suspicious. It is uncomfortable to live with." He asked where she had stayed in Cincinnati. She said the hotel corporation booked it. He asked for the name. She sighed the way people do when they are buying time. Then she pivoted. "Nolan, I am not doing this. This paranoia is not healthy. You need to talk to someone." That was a move. Turn his questions into symptoms. Make asking a form of instability. He had watched her do it with other people. He had never been the target before. He let her lie for 4 more days. He wanted to know whether she would stop on her own. She did not. She told him Darius had a girlfriend in Chicago. She said the receipt he referenced was from a group dinner. She said Mrs. Calhoun must have been confused. She said his hours were making him imagine things. Every lie arrived smooth and fully formed. He nodded through each one and felt the marriage die in increments. By Thursday, there was nothing left to salvage. There was only the question of how to leave without losing himself in the process. The evidence that ended it came because Brielle made one careless mistake. She synced her work tablet to the home printer while pulling inventory sheets. That evening, after she left for what she called a showroom dinner, the printer kept running. Nolan found hotel confirmation for Jeffersonville under Darius Bell's name, with Brielle listed as an additional guest. There were forwarded messages in the tray. One from Darius. "Last weekend was worth it." One from Brielle, sent 3 days earlier. "Once Nolan is out of the way, I can finally breathe." Out of the way. Not divorced. Not spoken to honestly. Out of the way, like furniture blocking a door. The rest of the email chain told the rest. Darius had been promising to recommend Brielle for a regional operations role in Nashville. Higher salary, relocation stipend, a company apartment for 6 months. He had told her that leaving her husband would make her look more available, more serious about where her career was headed. She had decided that Nolan, after 11 years, was an obstacle to move around. Nolan printed everything. Then he sat at the kitchen table with the folder in front of him and his wedding ring beside it. He stayed there for a long time without moving. He was not planning revenge. He was planning precision. Over the next 2 days, he separated his direct deposit, documented the shared accounts to the dollar, and met with a mediator named Evelyn Price, whose office sat near Hurstbourne Parkway. He also accepted the formal offer from Leland's company in Indianapolis, which started in 3 weeks and paid better than his current role. When Brielle came home that Friday evening and kicked off her heels near the door, she found him at the dining table. The folder was open. His wedding ring sat on top of it. She saw the ring first. For the first time in months, her face showed something unguarded. Not guilt yet, just fear of losing control of the story. He asked her to sit down. She laughed once, sharp and nervous. He said her name quietly, and she sat. He asked one question. "Did you go to Cincinnati?" She looked straight at him and said yes. He placed the hotel confirmation in front of her. Her mouth opened, then closed. He set the printed messages beside it, then the mileage log, then the photos from across the street in Jeffersonville. She did not touch any of it. She looked at each piece like it was something she could still work around if she stayed composed long enough. He waited. Paper has its own weight when no one speaks. "How long?" he asked. She said his name. He asked again. She looked toward the kitchen. 5 months, she said. He nodded once. Was the Nashville job part of it from the beginning? She did not answer right away. He told me it would help my career. And he told you I was what stood in the way of that career. Something came out of her. Then not quite a sob. More like something escaping before she could stop it. "I did not think you would actually leave," she said quietly. That was the moment. Not that she had cheated. She already knew that. Not that she had lied. She knew that too. What stunned her was that she had been wrong about him. She had looked at 11 years of a patient, quiet man, and concluded he would absorb this. She had never considered that absorbing things has a limit, and that he had been approaching this for months, and she had not noticed because she had stopped paying attention to him somewhere around the time she started paying attention to someone else. He did not raise his voice. That bothered her more than yelling would have. He told her he was moving out in the morning. He told her she could stay in the house temporarily if she covered the mortgage. He told her his lawyer would be in contact through mediation. She kept shaking her head, small, quick movements. "You cannot just disappear," she said. He looked at her. "That is what you asked for." She knew what he meant. He saw it land. The next morning, he left before sunrise. He did not take the furniture. He left her half of the joint savings untouched. He took his clothes, his tools, his documents, a box of photos from his side of the family, and the Cincinnati mug. He still does not fully know why he took the mug. Maybe because he needed a physical reminder of how easily lies can be gift-wrapped and handed to a person who is just trying to believe the best. The consequences arrived the way real consequences do, slowly and without announcement. Brielle had to explain his absence to her family, then to their mutual friends, then to co-workers who noticed he stopped attending showroom events. Darius became careful the moment the affair had consequences attached to it. He stopped calling at night. The Nashville recommendation never materialized. When the regional director learned that a promotion discussion had become entangled with a personal relationship, Darius was transferred to another territory pending review. Brielle's application was quietly removed. No dramatic firing. Just doors closing with professional courtesy. She called Nolan often in the first few weeks. He let most calls go. When he did answer, she cried in a way he had not often heard from her. She said she had ruined everything. He sat on the edge of his mattress in his Indianapolis apartment and said yes. She waited for comfort. He did not provide it. He did not have anything left that belonged to her. "Do you hate me?" she asked one night. He thought about it. "No, but I cannot live inside a marriage where my peace depends on ignoring what is right in front of me." Mediation was quiet and thorough. Evelyn Price, in her office above a strip mall off Hurstbourne, wore reading glasses on a chain and spoke in a way that suggested she had seen every version of this conversation and was not surprised by any of it. Brielle admitted the affair without being pressured. She also admitted she had been treating Nolan with contempt before the hotel in Jeffersonville was ever part of the picture. That acknowledgement mattered more than most of what came after. Betrayal begins before the act. Sometimes it begins the first time someone decides their partner's feelings are an inconvenience rather than a reason to stop. They sold the house 3 months later. Neither of them could carry the mortgage alone without pretending the marriage had not happened. On the final walkthrough, Nolan went through each room by himself. The pantry door still closed smoothly. The bedroom still caught afternoon light. He placed a Cincinnati mug in the trash bin outside before locking up and sliding the key through the mail slot. That was a symbolic closure. He did not need a souvenir from a lie. 6 months after he left, Brielle sent one message. I know I do not deserve another chance. I just want you to know that I understand now. You were not in my way. You were holding a life together while I was chasing something empty. He read it twice. He set the phone down and did not answer that night. The next morning, he wrote back 7 words. I hope you heal. I am too. Sometimes closure is not a slam door. Sometimes it is a quiet lock. Turned once and left. Nolan Whitaker's greatest loss was the years. That is the part no mediation agreement addresses. No clean account split. No Nashville job that never came through for either of them. The years a man spends building something with a person who has quietly decided it is not enough. His greatest victory was not her downfall. It was waking up at his Indianapolis apartment on a Tuesday morning, making coffee, and realizing his chest did not tighten anymore when a phone buzzed on the table. That was the karma, not her consequences. His peace. And before you go, if this story made you think about loyalty, patience, and the moment a quiet man finally stops absorbing, please share, and subscribe for more stories like this. Drop a comment and tell me. If you were Nolan, would you have confronted Brielle the night you heard her on the phone, waited until you had every piece of evidence, or planned your exit in silence and walked away? Because the hardest part of this story is not what she did. It is how long he kept fixing things for a woman who had already decided he was the one thing she wanted broken. The end.